All right, Saturday morning, Krueger Show brought to you by Pig and a Pickle and our good friends at Mancini's. Paulie Mack is in the house. We're going to talk some Niners. Niners are in South Florida getting ready to take on the Dolphins tomorrow. Big college football day, NFL on a Saturday, shopping to do, only 4 days left. Get out there and shop your butts off. Get me something good. Let's go. All right, welcome to the Krueger Show. A couple minutes behind, 9:08 on the West Coast, 8 minutes after noon on the East Coast. Paulie and I are both out here on the West Coast. Good morning to everybody, and of course, welcome to the Krueger Show. Brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Every single day, somebody sends me a picture of themselves eating at Pig and a Pickle, and I forward them to Damon Stainbrook, the owner of Pig and a Pickle. Yeah. He loves seeing it. It's awesome. We're going to be doing another meet and greet there because the downside of the Niners not being in the playoffs is there'll be no Super Bowl for the Niners this year. The upside is we don't have all that stress, and we can do, we can do a little meet and greet during one of the playoff windows. Nice. And see some of the fans and have some barbecue and head out to a Pig and a Pickle and see Damon and Mary and hang out for a few hours. So we're going to do that. We're not sure exactly when, and it'll be very informal. Paulie went to the last one, very informal, just kind of a meet and greet. We're there eating some barbecue, having a couple drinks, and watching some ball, and we'll be doing that at one point during the playoffs. So we're not Kevin and I are still hunting for dates, but we will definitely be there at Pig and a Pickle, and we invite all of you guys to stop by probably after the holidays in January during the NFL playoffs. So check that out. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueger Show. And thanks to Sharp Corner, Sports Cards and Collectibles, 205 Cypress Avenue, Pacific Grove, California is where they hail on the Monterey Peninsula. Call my friend Anthony Catania at 831-521-5264. And as you see right above Paulie's head there, we are also brought to you by Mancini's Sleep World. That's right. Mancini's is a proud sponsor of the Krueger Show as well, and they've got a great deal for Krueger Show fans. That's right. There it is right there. Use the code Krueg10, and you'll get 10% off at any Mancini's or online at sleepworld.com on your complete mattress purchase. So you go in there and you buy, 3 beds and spend, 10 grand. You're going to save $1,000. Courtesy of us, just because you know us. Mancini's Sleep World, proud sponsor of the Krueger Show. They offer a 120-night guarantee with a range of brands and price points. You get free next-day delivery. Click the link below or go to sleepworld.com. Find a bed that works for you, whether shopping online or visiting in store. Once again, Krueg10, just like it says there at the bottom of the screen, and you'll get 10% off, KRUEG 10, and you'll get 10% off your total purchase in store or online at sleepworld.com. And thanks to Mancini's for being a proud sponsor of the Krueger Show. Paulie, good to see you, man. Happy holidays to you and all the McCaffreys. I know the kids are home from college and getting ready. We were just talking before we went live that we both have some Christmas shopping to do today. We got NFL ball. We got college ball. Yeah. We normally go on a Wednesday night, but your boy was coming to town, and Wednesday I got caught in the craziest commute of all time anyway, and it actually worked out perfectly to reschedule for today. So welcome to the Saturday morning window.
Yeah, thank you, brother. I like to wake up and have coffee with Krueger. That's the theme of my morning today. Coffee with Kruegs. Great to be with you in the daylight hours, Larry. And no, dude, you're right. Right before we started the stream today, Larry and I both connected on the fact that we are both still have Christmas shopping in front of us, which is unfortunate. Larry, every year I find myself in this position, even with like the advent of Amazon, I still find myself like, damn, I still got to get like 6 more things. So I'll be out running around today and watching tons of football. Should be a good day.
Well, this is also the day that my procrastination skills burn me, because what I'll do is my sister lives in Connecticut. I got her kids gift cards.
Nice.
So now all I got to do is go to the mailboxes, et cetera, place across the street and mail them, but I have to make sure they get there. So now I'm going to have to, even though they're just gift cards in an envelope, I'm probably going to have to do like next day air for like $12.50.
Yeah.
So, whatever.
Me and you, buddy. Me and you.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Happy freaking holidays. No, I'm just joking. I love the holidays. As a kid, I love the holidays. I just, growing up in the Krueger household, there was a lot of love. I mean, mom and dad were both there. They loved each other. I had, 3 siblings, an older brother, 2 sisters, and the holidays were just an awesome time, man. Family, a lot of, great food. My mom was a spectacular cook.
Nice.
And the house would just smell so incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Just all kinds of, my parents were old fashioned. So they hey, let's all go see the Nutcracker and stuff like that. So, I mean, we would do the kinds of things that we don't do now. Let's just say now that they're no longer with us. I'm not headed to the Nutcracker, believe it or not, today. But
no. Well, what's the greatest 49er Christmas gift you got as a kid? I can tell you mine. I have a good one, but what was yours?
I don't have a 49er gift, but I have a football gift because, I don't know if you were like me, Paulie, because you're pretty into music. Maybe people say, oh, get Paulie this or that, maybe surrounding music or entertainment, not necessarily always sports. For me, I was Larry loves sports. He loves sports. Yeah. So I've been getting, the little calendar where you peel one day forever. I've been getting the sports facts calendar. I've been getting, you name it. I've gotten every Niner thing there possibly could be. But when I was a little kid, my dad's boss, my dad worked in the city attorney's office. His boss at the city attorney's office was going on a trip and had some connection to the Pittsburgh Steelers. This was in 1979. Well, you have to go back in 1979. That was a huge freaking deal. The Pittsburgh Steelers.
They won the Super Bowl that year, didn't they?
They won back to back. They won 78 and 79. So they were and the Niners were kind of down. He hands me this envelope at Christmas, and I'm like, what is this? I open it up. It's a team picture of the Pittsburgh Steelers, all glossy, really good, really well done. And then individual face shots autographed by Terry Bradshaw, Franco Harris, Lynn Swan, Mean Joe Green, like Jack Lambert, Jack Ham, Rocky Blyer. It was like 8 or 10 Steelers autographed headshots. Yeah. And then the team picture.
Wow.
And I mean, I just, it's like they're pictures. And as a kid, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, you can't really play with pictures, right? You're always looking to play with things. But it was unbelievable. I remember my dad going, wow, and I'm like, and it was incredible. And I still have them, they're not in great shape because I was only 9. I played with it a lot at the time. Yeah. A lot of the signatures are faded pretty much, but I still have a few of the pictures around, including the team picture. But just an amazing sports gift. At that point, the Steelers were a dynasty. All there was like the Steelers and the Cowboys. You know what I mean? It's like, and that was just an awesome gift. How about yourself?
Well, the best 49er related Christmas gift I ever got actually came a little bit later in my life. I was probably late 20s, maybe close to 30. And my dad, God bless him, my dad one year got me it was a Joe Montana signed football in a glass case, which I still have. It's not that far from where I'm sitting right now. So I've kept that thing in the case. I cherish it. Like all of us, Larry, of the Walsh era, when we growing up during those years, I'm a massive Joe fan. I mean, dude, I'm still out here reminding people that are bowing down to Patrick Mahomes. Oh, we've never seen anything like Patrick Mahomes. Oh my God, he's reinventing the position. Oh my God. And yeah, he's talented, but I've never seen Patrick Mahomes get sacked 9 times in the first half at the Vet in Philly, get up off his ass and throw 4 touchdown passes in the fourth quarter like we saw him do in 89. So anyway, I'm a massive Joe fan. That football means a lot to me. I always think of my dad when I pass it and I look at it. So yeah, man, tis the season. I mean, I've given my kids a lot of 49er. You know what I used to do, Larry? When KMBR had the good seats for the Warriors, remember we used to have those seats right down near the court, where a couple of rows off the floor.
Yeah.
A couple of years I arranged with the sales guys to get a pair of tickets in the good seats, and I would stick them in my kids' stockings. So we would, I would give Warrior tickets away at Christmas time. It's fun to work sports into Christmas. Kids love that, man.
No doubt.
Yeah.
A lot of good comments this morning. Ken Dowsland says, good morning, Krug and Paulie Mac. Good morning, Ken.
Hey now.
D's like, I got to get Krug some brisket chili.
Yeah.
Ooh, it is good. The brisket chili is amazing. Bacon and egg breakfast. You're a scumbag, Larry, but I love you. All right.
Love you too, man. Yeah.
I love you too. I love you too.
Yeah.
I love you too, you fucking scumbag.
Right.
Here we go. We got a question in the chat from Johnny F. Groove. Does Paulie have a channel soon? Right?
Johnny
Paulie,
F.
tell people if they want to, if they're catching you on the Krug show the last month and they're like, man, I like Paulie. I want to check out his channel. It's coming, huh?
Yeah, it's going to be, we're going to launch the week of January 6th, right? We're going to coincide with the NFL playoffs kicking off. And you can go to YouTube, just search at Paulie's Pod. You can subscribe right there. Hit me up on Twitter, also at Paulie's Pod. Blue Sky, Instagram. Krug, I'm spreading the brand out all over the place now, man. I've learned from you. I've learned from the master. And I got to tell your audience, man, Larry Krueger has been a great friend to me this year as I've tried to kind of sort my way through this new landscape, man. You've seen the fall of KNBR, and a lot of talented people are out here now looking for a new place to broadcast. And I've really watched Larry closely, and he's been great, taking me in on the show once a week. And so, yeah, I'll be right alongside Larry on YouTube with Creative Tony, another KNBR castaway. He'll be my co-host and producer, and we're going to have a good time, man. If you enjoyed the Murph and Matt. Oh, and by the way, don't think Brian Murphy won't be a guest on the show, because he will. So we'll have a little Murph and Mac, reuniting party. It's going to be a great time. I'll see you the second week of January, y'all.
Man, I was driving to Santa Clara yesterday. And next time I see Murph, I'm going to have to ask him. I could have swore he told the morning show audience that he met his wife at a strip club. Cleveland. I know Clevelander. He said, he's like, yeah, Mike Silver introduced me to my wife at the Clevelander. Isn't the Clevelander a strip club?
Well, I do know this. I do know the origin story of Murph and Candace, and they met.
I'm not trying to start anything. I was listening to the radio. That's all I was doing. Murph, don't get mad.
Hey, if Murph said it, I mean, there's got to be some truth to it. But I know
I'm not Jeff Ireland, and you're you're not Des Bryant, and I'm not asking these questions.
No. But they were both sports writers covering the Super Bowl with the Niners and the Chargers, the Steve Young Super Bowl. And Mike Silver, I guess, was telling Murph, hey, there's this great writer. You got to meet her. She's really cute. You guys remind me of each other. You'd make a great couple. And I guess Mike Silver introduced them. Now, I don't know about the strip club angle. I got to follow up with Murph on that. But I do know that Silver did introduce them. That is a fact. Yeah.
I could have swore he told the stories in Murph using Silver's voice. Murph, you got to get down here.
Oh,
I'm at the Clevelander, and you have to meet Candace.
Yeah. Oh, Murph, man, come on down. I'm hanging out with Eric Rodgers and Stephen Mack, man. You got to come on down. By the way, here's another thing. You should bring this up to Grant Cohn next time you talk to him.
Okay.
Murph told this story on the air a million times. So Murph and Lowell Cohn are really good friends. They're very close. Right. They worked together for a long time. So when Murph married Candace, apparently Grant Cohn stole the show at the reception as a little kid. Murph told the story many times that Grant Cohn got on the dance floor as like a 10-year-old, and like the sea parted. There was a big circle of people just like clapping around. I swear to God. And Murph has told that story many times that Grant Cohn was the star of the show at Murph. Yeah.
I'm gonna wait till the right moment and spring that on Grant.
Definitely.
The man who cut the rug at the Brian Murphy wedding reception.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
And we have footage of it, Grant. That would be hilarious. That would be hilarious. Is there footage?
I don't know. Good. There probably is. Good question. Ask Murph, dude. Great question.
I'm planning my my attack.
Nice.
My surprise hit on Grant. Grant, here's footage from you dancing at Murph's wedding. Yeah. All right, let's get to the Niners. A lot of people are in the chat going, where the hell is your Niner talk? You're talking Christmas, you're talking KNBR, you're talking strip clubs and how people met. Get to it. All right. Calm down. Niners in Miami. Niners are 6-8. Dolphins are 6-8. One of the people in the chat here up top was asking or suggesting that, here it is, Trey Lamont. He says, sign and sit Greenlaw. Sit Bosa. This season is over.
Right.
This is an interesting thing. I mean, it's like these guys are trying to get back. The Niners still are mathematically alive. I think that's a big part of it. If they weren't mathematically alive, maybe they'd have a different approach. But my thought on it is, look, anytime you play football, you can get seriously hurt. And the last thing the 49ers want to do is get somebody with a year-long rehabilitation, an injury in these last 3 games. I mean, absolutely nothing. That's going to take a year-long rehabilitation. That's going to take them essentially out of the 2025 season. We already don't know if Brandon Ayuk is going to give the Niners much, if anything, next year. We don't know what CMC is going to be able to give the 49ers, if anything, next year. You can't afford to lose Bosa and Greenlaw, especially since I want both those guys on the team next year, including Greenlaw signed. So you can't lose those guys for all of next year and have a shot. So I would say, look, Greenlaw spent his entire season this year trying to rehab and get back. And he loves to play. And he played one half, and now he's trying to prove that he can bounce back after one half of play and play another game. Okay, fine. They're still mathematically alive. You want to play him for a half or whatever in this game against Miami. Bosa, you want to play him for a half. Okay, I get it. I mean, I'm okay with it. But I would rather see them sit Bosa the rest of the year. And I'd rather see them after maybe a half of against Miami, they tap Greenlaw on the shoulder and say, Dre, let's put it away for another day. We want to sign you. And so we also don't want you to play, because he's playing at the end here because he's got to show everybody that he's the same player that he was before the injury, so he can get paid in free agency. The Niners ought to take that whole equation off the table by telling him, look, we want you here and we're going to pony up the money and, play a half because you love to play. But after this Miami game, we're shutting it down. No Detroit, no Arizona. You're not playing anymore, and let's get an extension signed. I totally agree with Troy here.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, especially if the 49ers go down to Miami and lose that game, then you really have to look around and say, what do we have left? I mean, we're not playing for postseason. And you're right. And when you consider the guys that are injured, we're talking about key guys like Trent Williams and Greenlaw and Bosa. And I agree with you, Larry. I mean, there's just too much at stake. And guys like Bosa and Trent Williams, their salaries, frankly, are too high to risk aggravating. Like with Trent Williams, it's the ankle. With Greenlaw, he's got a hamstring and a knee. It's like, how much do you want to roll the dice at this point in the season with these guys being able to play? If you're risking injury, really for no good reason, because at this point, if they lose Sunday, what are they really playing for? You might want to start looking at some of the guys who don't get into games very often and sit your key horses. So, Larry, I agree. I do think it depends, though, on the outcome of the Miami game. I think if they lose down there, Shanahan's going to have to take stock and start to protect guys.
What do you want to see out of this game? Do you want to win? Do you want a loss? I want a loss. I really do. I'm not going to pretend I'm not going to pretend that, everybody's got their own agenda. Like, I understand when the coaches say, hey, man, we don't tank. Okay, that's great. That's your agenda. And I understand the players by saying, hey, look, I don't even know if I'm going to be on this team next year. So the last thing I want to do is, try to help them get better draft position. What? So they can draft somebody to replace me and I'm out of here. So the players and the coaches aren't necessarily on board. They're all like, let's go, let's go, let's go. But the Niners are done. They need everything to happen for them. It's not going to happen. Rams have to lose out. Right. Arizona's got to lose out. 2 teams have to tie in week 18. They have to beat everybody. I mean, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
No.
So my whole thing is I want to win. So, like, people are like, hey, man, we don't tank. We want to win. Oh, I want to win too. I just want to win when I want to win. You want to win tomorrow. I want to win in week 1 next year. See, in my mindset, maybe tell me if I'm wrong, but this is my mindset as a fan. This was my mindset as media. This is my mindset that wants to see the 49ers win. As somebody who has a YouTube channel around the Niners, and obviously we have a rooting interest. We're invested financially in the 49ers winning because we do better when they win. But we don't do bad when they lose, but we just we do better when they go to the Super Bowl.
Sure.
The best month ever in the history of this channel, revenue-wise, was last year in February when they went to the Super Bowl, because we were in Vegas. We got 150 to 200,000 views every day. I mean, every video we did blew up. People couldn't get enough.
Nice.
But I'm a fan that wants to win. I'm not about message sending, and I'm not about I'm not a do-gooder or anything like that, or one of these. I would never want to see my team lose. No, screw that. I want to see my team win championships.
Right.
So you don't, the path to a Super Bowl is not always a direct line. Sometimes you have to take a step back before you can go forward. And taking a step back, if the Niners lose out, the Niners could wind up with a top 10 pick. If the Niners win out, they probably could wind up with a pick around like 2023, something like that. So I want to see them lose out in these last 3 games and get that top 10 pick. They need rest. They're clearly gassed, but they also need to be restocked. And the kind of draft that I'm envisioning, Paulie, that they need is not the 85 draft where they draft Rice, even though it would be awesome to have Rice. It's the 86 draft where they traded back and traded back and traded back. And they got Fagan and Wallace and Griffin and McKyer and Rathman and Haley. And I mean, it set them up to win the championship in 88, 89. They almost did it 3 in a row in 90. And a lot of those same guys were still there when they won again in 94. So that's what I think the Niners need. And the only way you're going to get a big trade back draft is if you can get maybe a top 10 pick and trade down from there into the teens and trade down from there into the 20s and maybe trade down from there into the 30s. And now you make 3 or 4 trades like they did with the year they started with Larry Roberts. And let's see what a 20-person draft class looks like. They need to rebuild their O-line. They need to rebuild their D-line, their linebacking core. They don't know if they're getting anything out of CMC, Ayuk, or Debo next year. The Niners have some major freaking needs. They need a big injection of young, cheap talent that can really play, star talent. And it comes in the draft. So I'm all about the draft. I want to see them lose. What do you want on Sunday?
Well, this is interesting. This is an interesting discussion because, Larry, now I know you've been at it all week, but you and I have not talked yet about the Devondre Campbell situation. So
right.
I actually think that factors into this weekend in that Shanahan, I think, has something to prove that he hasn't lost this team because this is the first time we've really seen disharmony with this 49er locker room and with that kind of thing happening on the field. Like, listen, this year we saw Debo attack his kicker on the field. We saw Debo make comments about not getting enough touches. He's not involved enough. Then they force feed him last week and he's dropping passes. That was a horrible look. And then the whole Devondre Campbell thing. I'm not playing. I don't want to play. I'm not going in the game. And then there's damage control that has to be done in the aftermath of that. So now here's Shanahan. And I think the players also have to show that they're still competing, that they still want to go out and compete and that they want to go win. So I think Shanahan is in a spot this week where he's got to show everybody that his team is still connected. They're still on the same page, that they're still going to go out and compete. They're going to play hard every Sunday. And I always think about guys like Fred Warner. Like, I just can't imagine Fred Warner walking on a football field at any time and not going 110%. And same with Greenlaw. And I agree with you, Larry. I think it's very smart to protect Greenlaw. Maybe let him play a half on Sunday in Miami, maybe. But after that, I would bubble wrap his ass and keep him on the sideline because it's just not worth it. But I do think Shanahan's in a bit of a pickle here in that he's got to show us that his team is still together. There's still harmony in the locker room because that was an ugly week, man. That Devondre Campbell thing, I mean, you just simply can't have that. And I'm sure you raked it over the coals, but I think there's a shadow on this game from that incident last week.
It's a great point. And one I hadn't even thought of. But you're totally right. Because now, it's funny. Those of us around the team every day know that locker room, that Devondre Campbell meant nothing to that locker room. He led nobody. He spoke for himself and only himself. And right. I'm not saying that with any agenda. I'm not trying to cover anybody. It is. That's a fact. I don't know if you guys saw the audio, but we did an interview with Nick Bosa at his locker, and somebody asked that question: is there something wrong with the chemistry? Is there something wrong in the locker room? Is this an indication of more discontent? This Campbell, and he's like, no, dude, no. He's like, this is an awesome room. This is an incredible room. These guys play incredibly hard, and this is not he didn't fit our culture, and that's why he stood out. And that's what Lynch told Murph yesterday with Rod Brooks sitting in from Marcus was that hey, you know what? He stood out like a sore thumb. We have a culture here, and our culture is our guys play their ass off. and play for each other and are all about the team. And this guy didn't play his ass off, wasn't all about the team, and didn't play for anybody else but himself, and couldn't embrace the situation. And they covered for Devondre multiple times. That back-to-back 12 men on the field penalties, that was because of Devondre Campbell. Right. That's because they were trying to get Devondre Campbell off the field. They wanted one linebacker. They wanted to go to a dime package. They were trying to get him off the field, and he wouldn't come off. He would not come off the field. And Sorensen had to answer like Sorensen was a fucking idiot. It's like, well, dude, why did your defense have 12 men on the field? And he can't sit there and be like, because fucking Devondre Campbell won't come off the goddamn field. He can't say that. Or I guess he could have, but he would have been throwing one of his players under the bus. And said so Sorensen kind of wore it. Yeah. Which, that's I kind of feel bad for Nick in that situation. And by the way, I'm not Nick's favorite guy anymore. I mean, I'm sure he's heard that I've advocated that they go for a big time defensive coordinator. And, some of the answers I've been getting from Nick the last couple of days, little frosty, little short, little frosty. But you know what? That's fine. He wants to be short and frosty. He can be short and frosty.
Well, dude, I mean, listen, when you're 6-8 in late December, there's going to be a lot of questions, man. And when the defense, let's be honest. I mean, we got to talk real talk here. The defense is just simply not even close to the level we saw last year. So, there's going to be scrutiny. I mean, Kruegs, I know how it is, man. We used to get a lot of resistance, too, when we'd be critical. But what are you going to do? You got to be able to describe what you're seeing. And that 49er defense has had a lot of holes this year. The pass rush really just has not been there consistently. The lack of turnovers, they're not taking the ball away. So I got no problem with you. You get after Sorensen, man. He's got to answer some questions.
Well, and hey, all I would say, not to be abrupt or a dick or anything, but hey, Nick, that's life in the fucking NFL when you lose 4 out of 5, baby. That's it. Yep. You lose 4 out of 5. That's the way it goes. And he knows it. That's why he's not complaining, but he's still a little frosty.
Kruegs, where are you with the whole because another thing you and I haven't had a chance to really talk about this week anyway is the whole Brock Purdy, future salary consideration. Like
we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. But I just wanted to point this out, Paulie, as far as the people who, in defense of Nick, right? Because I'm not here for I'm here for fairness. The one thing, you and I have been doing this long enough. You don't do this for as long as you and I have been doing this unless you're fair-minded with people, right? If you have some ridiculous agenda, you're going to be found out. And, you know what I mean? You don't last for decades in sports radio if you have an agenda. Right. You have to be fair-minded. So being fair-minded to Nick, and now you brought up how bad the defense is. I'm looking at their stats right here. Maybe I'll share the screen on this. Stuff. This is pretty amazing. This is, I mean, I know, stats lie and liars use statistics. But look at this, Paulie. This is the 49er Dolphins statistical comparison. And I don't know if you can see it.
I got you. Yeah.
You got it? Okay. Yep. Well, look at total defense. The Niners are third in total defense. Yeah. Third.
Wow.
They're the third best defense in the league. Are you telling me that we've been watching the third best defense in pro football? I don't believe that.
I don't either.
I don't believe that. Okay, so they're third in yards. Okay. They're 15th against the run.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
They haven't stopped the run worth a damn for the most part since the bye week.
Yeah.
They're second in pass defense, which is really impressive considering they haven't had Bosa. They lost Hargrave. Their defensive line's not dialing up a ton of heat. And they've got a very young secondary, but they're second in pass D. Now, that could be because teams are running it on them, instead of passing it on them. They're mid-pack in sacks with 14. They're mid-pack with picks. They have 11 interceptions. But isn't that interesting how the Niners, if you go points allowed, so the Niners, in yards allowed, they're the third best defense in football. In points allowed, they're 17th.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's the big one.
Isn't that it? I mean, isn't that revealing? And look at their offense. Offensively, the 49ers are 8th in offense, and that's down because they've had a couple bad weeks. They're 8th in offense. They're 15th in points.
Right.
So they're worse in points on both offense and defense than they are in yards. So in other words, they're a bad situational football team. They're bad in the red zone. They're bad on third down. On defense, they don't tackle. They've been worn down by not having Greenlaw. They lost Hargrave. They've lost Bosa. The depth on the front line's not the same. The secondary is youthful and talented, and have the second best pass D according to the numbers. But this defense doesn't look like a top 5 defense. No. But so I believe it or not, I was talking to Matt Mayoko. He thinks Sorensen's coming back because that 3rd ranking. That Sorensen's going to be back as the defensive coordinator because the Niners, the players like him. Bosa likes him. Warner likes him. Shanahan likes him. But I've also heard from people that Brandon Staley is a cancer and is going to be out at the end of the year.
Okay.
So that also has come across. This is, I've got a couple different sources that have said that Staley is not working out, but Sorensen is, and that Sorensen is going to stay and that Staley's going to leave. So we shall see on that front. But you asked about, and we'll stop sharing on that. But interesting, isn't it, to see those stats?
Well, it is. And it's interesting that he's done as well as he has in total yardage. I mean, I would not have guessed that, Larry. I would not have guessed they were ranked that high as a team. Can I get one more? I want to ask you one more question, if you're cool with that, before we go to Purdy, which is right before we started today, I was reading a piece by Matt Mayoko and it was Shanahan talking about how in order for NFL coaches to survive in this league, the coaches have to be able to adapt to the changes in the game. And I started thinking about that. And in terms of Kyle Shanahan specifically, so Kruegs, when you think about Shanahan at this point in his coaching career in San Francisco, do you think Shanahan has adapted appropriately? He was talking about other coaches needing to do that in order to survive. And I started thinking, well, has Shanahan adapted appropriately to the changes in the league? How do you see that?
I think he's adapted to the changes in the league. I think he's cutting edge in a lot of ways, but I think where he needs to adapt more, and he needs to stop embracing kind of his dad's era of football mindset when it comes to down and distance and how you think of things in short yardage.
Yeah.
Possession of the football is incredibly valuable. I mean, they have a meeting. The Niners believe so much in the possession of the football. They have a meeting about the ball every week. They literally have a meeting about the ball, and taking the football away is a major part of it. And who wins the turnovers almost always leads to who wins the game. So the possession of the ball means so much. And I just think that we are in an era right now where there's still a lot of old school thinking. And so you get to 4th and 2 and you're on your own 45-yard line, you punt. And I just think that as time goes on and analytics become more prevalent in the game, you're going to see teams set themselves up with the way they play call, so that they're to go for it more on 4th down. You don't want to go for it inside your 20-yard line, but guess what? This idea that the only time you want to go for it is inside the opponent's 40-yard line is probably a tad conservative.
Yeah.
It's probably more likely that you should go for it out anywhere on the field that's not inside your own 30-yard line. I'd like to see the Niners be a little bit more like, I hate to say it because I hate this guy, but Sirianni and the Eagles.
Yeah.
It's how Sirianni, let's just give an example. They get to 3rd and 4. Shanahan's thinking, I need a 5-yard pass play. And if I don't get it, I'm going to punt. Sirianni's thinking, I've got 3 behemoth offensive linemen and Saquon Barkley. I'm going to run it to get to 4th and 1.5, and then I'm going to push it for the first down. And I'm going to call my 3rd down play with a little bit more conservative nature because they're going to be defending the 4-yard mark because it's 3rd and 4. And I'm going to go for, a play that's going to get me 2 yards because I'm going to go for it on 4th down. So I don't know. I mean, I just think that the Niners lost the Super Bowl on a 3rd and 4, and they went for it, didn't get it, and kicked a field goal.
Right.
And there was a pass play. How about a 3rd and 4 power run play that is going to give, that won't be a negative, yardage play, and it's going to give you 2.5 yards so that you wind up with 4th and 1.5. That's the difference in mindset that like a Sirianni and some of the more analytic driven coaches do. And the Niners are still in that, let's pass it on 3rd and 4. And, we didn't get it. It doesn't matter that we're on the opponent's 48-yard line, we're going to punt. No, stop punting. Make sure you have possession of the football more and keep possession of the football more. So, I mean, I do think there's some things within the game, but I think overall, I don't think like Shanahan's behind the times or anything.
That's a good answer, man. That was a good answer. And I agree. And plus, I mean, if Shanahan got just a tad bit more aggressive in those situations where you're talking about maybe setting up a 4th and short, not only I think the fans would love it too. I mean, the fans always want to see the Niners go for it on 4th down, and they rarely do. But that was good. That was good, Cruz.
Couple more. I want to talk a little Brock Purdy here.
Yeah.
This is from Coach Yak's Twitter. I'm going to share the screen on this one. And Coach Yak, who's a good guy who puts out a bunch of Niner related tweets, he's got this one on Shanahan talking to Greg Papa about Brock Purdy and how Brock plays in bad weather. The one thing about Brock that's been kind of a consistent theme is he doesn't handle the wet weather well. And here's Shanahan talking to Greg Papa about that topic.
What do you see from Brock and his ability to control the ball in the rain and the snow?
I think Brock does a solid job. I mean, I think it's hard for everyone. That last game that we played on Thursday night, that was a lot worse than we anticipated. And I thought him and Stafford both had some moments where they struggled. But overall, you try to watch a guy in the rain and how much he's struggling. You can see when it's real bad that, all right, I can't do this stuff. But Brock really never makes me feel that way. There's going to be some stuff that's off just like anybody, but he's not a guy that it's going to be as bad as kind of how my dad felt about John at that time.
What do you see from Brock?
So a couple things have to be stated here. One, Shanahan, you don't get to be an NFL head coach without covering your guys. So, it's not us. It's not Shanahan and the media against the players. It's Shanahan and the players against the media. So, you know what I'm saying?
I do.
He's never going to embrace criticism from the media about his players. He's always going to push back. I asked Shanahan about the pass play last week where Brock had 3 guys open underneath. It was a 2nd down play, and he floated the interception in the 4th quarter in a 3-point game and cost the Niners the season. And I said, wasn't that a tad aggressive? And he's like, well, I kind of disagree that Brock's aggressive. How could you disagree that he's aggressive? He just went up top and blindly threw a ball to JJ that got easily picked so easily that JJ couldn't even fight for the ball. And he had 3 guys open underneath, and it's a fucking field goal game. If you kick and you're in field goal range, it's like, Kyle, so I get it. I'm not even going to question it anymore.
Right.
Whether it's me, Grant Cohn, Greg Papa, you, it doesn't matter who's asking the question. If the question has a negative answer, the coach is going to push back on that negative answer, and he's going to cover the ass of the player. So it's a CYA, cover your ass kind of approach. So that's one. 2, when you're listening to that answer from Kyle, and I love Kyle. I'm a big supporter of Kyle. I believe the Niners I think he's one of the best coaches in football. I believe he's going to win Super Bowls. I believe he's Andy Reid in Philly, and that eventually he's going to get Super Bowls the way Andy Reid did in Kansas City. Kyle's going to get 2 or 3 as well. So I'm a big Kyle Shanahan fan. I'm one of his backers. I'm not one of these guys going, fire his ass. I'm one of these guys going, you're high for saying fire his ass. So I'm a Kyle Shanahan supporter. I really am. I believe it. But he just stated there, the rain on Thursday night was much worse than he anticipated.
Yeah.
Well, if the rain was much worse than you anticipated, and you have a quarterback who has had a consistent issue with handling a wet football, and you're going up against a Rams team that's 28th in the NFL against the run, and the game was never more than a 3-point margin at any point, why are you passing it 31 times and running it 19 times? Why are you not running it 31 times and passing it 19 times? Why are you over 60% pass on a night that you're just stated to your announcer the rain was way worse than you thought it was going to be? Why aren't you running? Now, is it because you don't have McCaffrey? Is it because your offensive line is horse shit and you can't run? I mean, what is the reason? But there is a reason. You can't sit there and be like, oh, the rain was really bad, and then run it only 19 times and pass it 31 times in a game that was close the entire night. So, you know what I mean? Against a bad run D. So sometimes Shanahan's answers to defend one guy, he's actually kind of incriminating himself against other questions. It's like you're defending why Brock struggled with the wet ball, but you're not you're the one who had him throw it 31 times.
Yeah.
Why not have us? There's no law that you had to throw it that many times. Other teams ran the ball like crazy against the Rams this year. Why didn't you?
You know, and it's, listen, I mean, I appreciate Shanahan trying to protect his quarterback. I do. And you're right. That's part of his responsibility, but there's just simply too much evidence, Larry. We've seen this. I mean, look at the Buffalo game, the snowstorm up in Buffalo. Brock played poorly in that game too. I mean, I don't really think it's up for debate. Brock Purdy has not played well in wet weather games, period, and end of story. I mean, he's got to show us that he can do that, and he really hasn't been able to so far. But that being said, I do appreciate Coach looking out for his guy. I mean, that's the right. I think he gave the right answer in order to protect his QB. You know,
right? He's going to protect his guy, but it is maddening because it's like we asked Sorensen about Devondre Campbell a month ago. Love Campbell. Are you kidding me? He's playing some great ball right now.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You ask everybody about anybody, and everybody loves fucking everybody except they're 6-8 and not going to the playoffs, and they were the Super Bowl favorite, and yet there's a goddamn love fest. That's what fries my bacon. It's like, stop gaslighting me with your answers. I mean, it's one thing. Why not just come across and say, you know what? I'm not really here to be honest and direct. I'm just here to cover the ass of my players and subsequently my own ass. Right. And you know what I mean? It's like, I'd much rather have somebody who was like a little bit, some answers that are a little bit more based in honesty and facts instead of just, hey man, Sorensen's doing a hell of a job. Really?
Right.
Really? Because their fourth quarter defense is folding like a cheap suit, and you're giving up, the equivalent of like 35 a game in the fourth quarter. But he's doing a hell of a job. Then you ask Sorensen about Campbell. He's doing a hell of a job. Really? Right. You just cut his ass, and he refused to go in the game, and he was horseshit before that.
Right.
And with no lateral agility. So, guys like me who are going to spit facts and with some attitude, I'm never gonna be anybody's favorite down there. But that's just the way it is. You got to choose. You got to choose what lane you want to be in, and you got to do what you got to do. All right, a couple more that I want to get to here.
Yeah.
The Brock Purdy thing on the money. Let's talk about that because Cowherd had a whole video saying that, you know what, if I'm paying a quarterback $50 million, he can't be an if guy. But then, Paulie, I've looked at the quarterbacks who make $50 million, and they're all pretty much if guys.
Yeah.
And none of them have a winning record in the playoffs except for Joe Burrow. None of them have Super Bowl rings. There's not one guy who's making $50 million who has Super Bowl rings. Prescott, none. Jalen Hurts, none. Lamar, none. Joe Burrow, none. I mean, the entire list. Trevor Lawrence, none. Justin Herbert, none.
Yeah.
All these guys are making $50 million. None of them have won a Super Bowl. So this idea that, Brock, you can't pay Brock $50 million. What I would say is you can't pay Brock $65 million. Like if his agent wants to sit there and go, we want $65 million, then we're going to have to go figure something out because we're not giving you $65 million. That's as far as I'm concerned. But you know what? I would sit there with the same assured belief in my position that I don't want to pay him 65. I will pay him 50 because to me he is worth Tua. He is worth Hurts money. The guy's 4-2 in the playoffs. He's got a great record in the regular season. He's won a championship, NFC championship. He's gone to a Super Bowl. He's played well in that Super Bowl. He's had like 13 games of over 100 rating. It's the most by any quarterback in their first 3 years in the NFL. So he's had a lot of good games already. I think, Brock Purdy, I'd love it if you could have him on some super cheap contract forever. But this idea that he's going to make $30 million,
no,
I think that's a pipe dream. I don't know his agent, but I know people that have communicated with his agent. And some people had thrown out, hey, how about a 3-year deal for $40 million a year? 3 years, 120, all of it guaranteed. And he just laughed. He laughed at the idea of the $40 million AAV when Dak Prescott is making $60 million.
Yeah,
Now,
come on, right.
the question is, what's the right amount? Like, if you're Brock, what's the right amount? Is the most is probably not the right amount because it's a cap sport and it's a team sport and you want to have a good team around you. So you want to take a little bit less so that you're on a better team and there's more money to spread around the roster. That being said, a little bit less is $50 million. A little bit less is not $30 million or $40 million. You're not taking $20 million less AAV than Dak Prescott. So the question is this, and this is what Cowherd and he had Julian Edelman on, and they're both they don't like Brock, and they're like, oh, you can't pay Brock $50 million and this and that, he's just so this and that. And I get it. I understand he's had a rough year. But he's saying, I'd rather go sign Sam Darnold for $40 million than Brock Purdy for 55. And I threw that out in a live stream this week. What do you guys think? I'd rather pay Brock 50. I'd rather go with Brock at 55 than Sam Darnold. Why? Because I really see the Sam Darnold thing being a massive fail. He's going to come here. He's not going to have Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison or that play caller or that defense. And he's going to come here with Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings and maybe, past his prime Deebo Samuel or a rookie rounding out the wide receiver core. And he's not going to have the same success he had in Minnesota. And people are going to look at him and go, what the hell? Well, how come Sam was great in Minnesota and he's not great here? So I'd rather pay Purdy and go down that route and fill out that quarterback room with young quarterbacks around him. But I'll throw it to you, Paulie. I mean, would you rather have Purdy at 55 or would you rather, maybe get a deal with Darnold who has a bigger arm and maybe pay him 40?
No, I agree. I'm with you, Larry, 100% on this. Like, the Sam Darnold story is a good story this year, and I am happy for him. He's paid his dues. He got his ass kicked in New York. He sat on the bench in San Francisco, and he's having this great year. I think it's a great story, and I'm happy for him. But, no, I want Brock Purdy. I think Brock Purdy's the right quarterback for this Shanahan offense. And, one thing you didn't mention when you were talking about Brock's assets is, one of his greatest assets to me is just simply his durability. The fact that he's always on the field. That was one of the biggest problems with Jimmy Garoppolo during all his years is he simply couldn't stay on the field. You don't have
and mobility. Don't forget mobility because mobility and durability are kind of almost go hand in hand.
Yeah, no question. Brock can tuck it in and run. That's another asset that he has. But the fact that you don't have to worry or really be concerned with his health on a weekly basis, like we always were during the Garoppolo years, to me is a great asset. And listen, he's got a high football IQ. His teammates love him. I see nothing but potential and more growth in front of him. I think, and also I like the way he handles the media. Like, the whole thing isn't too big for him. He's never given me the sense that he's overwhelmed. And how about this Christmas gift he just gave the O-line? They all got Toyota SUVs. Dude, I saw the footage. I'm like, damn, we've come a long way from the Dan Marino isotoner gloves. Bro, Dan Marino was giving his linemen gloves. Brock's out here giving away SUVs. And the only reason I'm mentioning that is it is a great story, but two, it kind of speaks to the relationship these guys have. Yeah, nice. Let's watch this. This is a killer. If your audience, yeah.
Here we go. Here's Brock yesterday at the facility, or I guess maybe a couple days ago.
Boys, I want to say Merry Christmas. Got some gifts for you guys. Sorry for the wait, but if you guys want to follow me outside, let's go.
Nick Sakel right there.
Yeah.
Aaron Banks, Jalen Moore, Nick Sakel, Dom Pooney.
Let's go.
Big Brendel.
Toyota, baby.
Ben Barch is the redhead guy.
All right, so we got 5 Sequoias, 5 Tundras. You guys can check them out, but these are yours. So Merry Christmas.
Oh my God. Tough.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, guys.
With the way these guys are dressed, these guys look like they're like jumbo middle schoolers.
Yeah, right.
Appreciate you. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for all you do. Merry Christmas, bro. Nah, dude. Wanted to. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Merry Christmas. Appreciate you, bro. Yes, sir.
Happy holiday.
Yeah.
The red interior.
Dude, it's badass, man. The other quarterbacks have to answer the rock.
Purdy came through. Y'all see
I know.
I gotta see the inside. It's nuts, bro.
Yeah.
Insane. Dude, it smells so good, brand new.
I mean,
Oh my God, I can't believe this.
Bart's just trying to drive off right now, dude.
Look at him. Listen to that purr.
yeah,
Purdy. That purr is Purdy.
nice.
Let's go, dude.
It's great to
Oh my
see.
God.
I love it.
My mind is blown, honestly. This is probably the greatest gift I ever got in my life.
Yeah, that's kick-ass, man. That was a nice moment. And dude, I'm telling you, I mean, most quarterbacks, what do, Larry? Give their linemen Rolexes. This is the best gift I've ever seen.
I mean, it's gotten big. You know, it's gone from like Rolexes to Mahomes gave his linemen golf carts last year.
Oh yeah.
They were like maybe little ATV golf carts.
We should ask
but
Steve Young. We should ask Steve what he gave his guys in the 90s. I'd be curious.
I know, seriously.
Yeah.
Rolexes were big. I know that was a big one for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, a car. Now here's the question. I mean, it's funny. I was doing a stream with Dieter. Dieter's like, he just handed his offensive lineman huge tax burdens.
Oh, come on, Dieter.
Like, oh my
come
God,
on, Dieter.
I'm like, Dieter, stop. That's so hyper negative.
Yeah, come on. That's too much.
But here's the question. What a lot of these guys are driving. I mean, you know, there's some big time, you know, Teslas and you know, what's the cyber trucks and, you know, pimped out rides in the parking lot. I mean, these guys, you know, it's not like these guys were taking the bus and now they've got a ride. You know, all these guys had big time cars before. Here's the question. What do you think most of those guys actually do with the car?
Well, we're getting into tricky territory now, because if you grew up watching Seinfeld, you remember the whole concept of re-gifting, which is
right.
Yeah, when you get a gift and it's a nice gift, but maybe you already have one or you don't like it, but you're like, you know what? I can give this to somebody else as a brand new gift unopened and they'll love it. So that's my question, Larry. Is Pooney going to re-gift this bad boy? Or any of those guys, like, are they going to be like, you know what? I got a great ride, but my little brother could use a car. So
you know what it is. You know, I mean, think about it this way. What's the thing that you would do? I mean, nobody does anything for themselves, and nobody does anything for anybody else. Everybody always does things better, you know, for themselves, even if they're gifting something. So, you know, some of them may give it to their wife, but the wife is probably driving a fat ride too. So my guess is this is the perfect opportunity to give it to either your mom or dad or sibling, or your wife's dad, the father-in-law gift. You know what I mean? Because I mean, if you want your, you know, happy wife, happy life, what's going to make your wife happy? Well, you know, if you set up her dad with a truck, that probably
take care of the old man. Yeah, take care of the old man. Now you're sitting pretty. Yeah.
I'll give you a little insight into my own personal life. Now we don't get what, you know, we're not pro athletes, so we don't get gifts like that. But we are radio pitchmen.
Yes.
And you and I have done many a commercial through the last 20 years. I did one. They came to me and said, Krug, we want to advertise creative energy hot tubs.
Ooh.
And they want to give you a hot tub.
Yeah.
Right. And at the time, I'm like, man, I'm living in a condo. I also going to put a hot tub on the patio. I'm going to be that asshole with the one asshole who's got like this pimped out, I mean, I've got the hot tub. I got all this noise. People are being loud, because when you're in a hot tub, you're super loud because you can never hear anything. Oh yeah. I mean, are you kidding me? The Niners, so you put a hot tub on a patio and and that's not good. Yeah. So I didn't really have the spot for it, but my wife's parents did have a spot for it in their backyard. So They had a big backyard. I said, well, you may have to, if we give you this hot tub, you may have to actually, you're going to have to probably build a lattice, and you're going to have to build some stonework, and, you're going to have to put some money into your backyard in addition to this. And he's like, yeah, that's no problem. So whatever. It was like probably a $7,000-$8,000 hot tub, maybe, it might be retailed for 15 or something like that. So they gave it to me. I gave it to him. It was pimp. It was colors and lights and all this. And he had them deliver it. And, he had to put a base. He had to build a, cement. He had to have a contractor build a cement base, stonework, lattice. I mean, he's probably in it for another $5,000, $10,000, just doing, but you know what? It was a really good move. I mean, it was, it was great. They enjoyed it. They've since sold their house with it in it, so they don't have it anymore. But they loved it for a few years, and it was a good regift. So there you go.
You and I, man, great minds think alike. I had the exact same thing happen to me. This is like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. I was doing an ad campaign at KMBR for Bose speakers, and Bose gave me, as a like a gesture of thanks, they sent me 2 fully loaded sound systems to be hooked up to your home entertainment system. So, I mean, and dude, I got to tell you, Larry, I still have mine, and it's awesome. Like, you set up those speakers, you watch Apocalypse Now or something. It's like you're in the helicopter with Dennis Hopper. You know what I mean? But I gave my mom the other set because they sent me 2 of them, and my mom was so happy. She's like, we hooked it up for her, so now my mom can watch movies. She's got the speakers set up, and you're right, dude. We didn't get to give away SUVs, but we got some nice moments as pitchmen. No question.
Where you could give stuff away for sure.
Yeah.
So let's get to the Purdy deal once again. This is Joe Rose. Joe Rose stopped by on my Niners Nightly show, and he's kind of like the Gary Radnich of Miami. He does TV and radio out there. And I asked him about Purdy, and they've got Tua. And, Tua got paid, and now Tua's struggling and people are complaining. Here's Joe Rose talking a little bit about Purdy and the dilemma the Niners face on the contract. What do you think of Brock? He's an undersized guy, and we're sitting here, Joe, trying to debate, did we give him a Tua Tagovailoa contract, which is a $50 million plus commitment? Give me your outsider perspective on Purdy. What do you think?
I just want to let you know, and please don't take this the wrong way, Larry, but I'm officially an expert because we had the same conversation for the last year about what to do with Tua. Our guy's got to stay healthy, number one. He didn't do. He missed 4 games. We lost 3 of them. And at times on the road against really good teams, he has not played well. Last week, 4 turnovers. There's a lot of frustration. And every time he has a bad game, you know what pops up, Larry? Look at the amount of money we gave him. And, man, we are tied into this for a long time. We don't know if he can play. And then there are people saying he can't play. Why do we do that? It's funny because I see the 49ers going through the same thing. If you think he's a franchise quarterback and you think when he's got the right pieces around him that he can win games and you've seen enough, then you do it. But if not, it's a tough one.
Yeah. This is kind of where the Niners are at now. A lot of people look at Brock, and I'm sure you get the same thing. And you get this, Purdy's mid. He's so mid. He's he's this, he's that, he's that. The guy's a really good quarterback. I mean, if you really look at it, he's been to 2 NFC Championship games. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's won a ton of games. He's mobile. He's accurate. He plays on time. He's a good football player. Now, you don't want to pay him an unbelievable amount of money because you don't want to handicap your ability to win. But once again, look at the Dolphins when they lost Tua earlier this year. They were horrible, absolutely horrible. Look at the Niners in the NFC Championship game as soon as Brock Purdy went out against the Eagles. They were horrible. They couldn't do anything.
Right.
So I don't know. I just feel like, you don't want to pay Brock too much, but man, if your options really are, you're going with Brock, or it's not like Brock or you can have Mahomes. It's Brock or nothing. It's Brock or reclamation project, Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, Zach Wilson. You want to go that route?
No.
It's Brock or, maybe you get Sam Darnold to come here. It's Brock or maybe you could trade up in the draft for some quarterback, maybe a Cam Ward or something. I mean, and even that's going to be very difficult to do. So I'm just this whole idea. There's an awful lot of people that don't like Brock. It's like people that are staring at their kitchen going, we need to renovate this thing. And like, well, you know what? Okay, fine. But before you take a sledgehammer to the cabinets and a sledgehammer to the granite and a sledgehammer to the kitchen, you may want to have, I don't know, a plan to rebuild it. You may want to actually have, I don't know, some appliances, in the garage. You may want to have some flooring already bought. You may want to have some backsplash materials already, I don't know, ready to be installed. You know what I'm saying? Before anybody with some anger can take a sledgehammer to their cabinets and to their kitchen. I'm not a contractor, but if you need me to come and take out a sledgehammer and sledge out your kitchen, I can do that. I can destroy your kitchen. I can't build you a new kitchen, but I can destroy your current kitchen. Anybody can destroy Brock Purdy and say, get him out of here. He sucks. He's mid. Get rid of him. But who are you going to get?
Right.
Who are you going to get to replace him? Who are you going to win with? You just saw the way his linemen, feel about him. That's how people across the organization feel about Brock.
No.
The other thing is, if you get rid of Brock Purdy, you're getting rid of your quarterback. You're also getting rid of your hardest worker. He is probably the hardest working guy on your team on the offensive side for sure. So, he's in a lot of ways. There's a lot on the line if they decide they want to part ways with Brock Purdy.
I think Brock Purdy is the quarterback. I think they are going to pay him. I expect that he'll get in the $50 million neighborhood. And I think that's market value for a quarterback of his talents. He's already taken a team to a Super Bowl. We saw it last year. We talked about his availability being a great asset. He's tough. He's always on the field. And listen, I always think about when Garoppolo was still here, but you would hear a lot of talk about Shanahan being infatuated with Kirk Cousins. And I never liked that idea, even back then, 5 years ago. And now you look at Kirk Cousins and, Atlanta's probably going to cut his ass at the end of the year. So do you want to go down a road like that? And again, with respect to Sam Darnold, I'm really happy for him. I'm glad he's had the season he's had. He's a real survivor in the NFL, and it's a great story. But I don't think Sam Darnold is going to come in here and lead the Niners to the postseason. I think it's pretty obvious that Brock Purdy is the quarterback. They are going to pay him. They'll find a place, a dollar amount that's comfortable for both sides, and onward and upward. I mean, this has been a disappointing year, but that doesn't mean that next season is going to be disappointing. In fact, I would expect the opposite. I would expect a much better showing next year. But to suggest that the Niners would be better off drafting a young QB starting all over again, no. I think they have their guy, Krug, and I think they're going to work out the deal. I do.
Kev has put together some amazing stuff this week, Paulie. I mean, yeah. Kev's been awesome all year, but
talk about really, an asset, dude. Yeah, no, Kevin Krueger is amazing.
This kid's amazing. I'm going to play a couple of his Brock Purdy reels from this week that he made. Some of these are really good, and some of them have gotten just blown up on TikTok. It's unbelievable. But here's one of them. I mean, here's the bottom line. Here are the players that make over $50 million: Hurts, Jackson, Herbert, Goff, Tua, Lawrence, Love, Burrow, Prescott. Those 9 quarterbacks make between 51 million Hurts to 60 million Prescott. If he's going to reset the market, he's going north of 60 million. Now, here's the one thing about this. None of these guys have done anything. Dak Prescott's 2-5 in the playoffs. He's never won a ring. Joe Burrow is actually good in the playoffs, 5-2 in the playoffs, but he has never won a ring. In his 35-30-1 career in the regular season. Jordan Love is 1-1 in the playoffs, no rings. Trevor Lawrence says 1-1 in the playoffs, no rings. 22-38 in the regular season. Tua Tagovailoa, 0-1 in the playoffs, no rings. Jared Goff, $53 million a year, 4-4 in the playoffs, no rings. Justin Herbert, $52.5 million. He's 38-38 career. He started one playoff game. He's 0-1. Lamar Jackson, $52 million contract, no Super Bowl rings. He's 2-4 in the playoffs. Jalen Hurts, $51 million, no rings for him, 2-3 in the playoffs. So then you look at Brock Purdy and you're like, well, he's 23-11 in the regular season, and he's 4-2 in the playoffs, and he has been to a Super Bowl, and he's 24, and he's healthy, and he's a good guy. So that Kev put that one together. That's pretty good with all those different quarterbacks and
I forgot about
around.
that. I forgot about that play against the Commanders where he rolls right, throws across the field to Ayuk in the end zone. What a great play that was, man. And that kind of play speaks and shows you his talents, that he's able to throw across his body at that distance, shows off some strength, accuracy. That was a great clip. Krug, compliments to Kevin Krug on that one. Very nice.
No, seriously. And look, there's two more he did here. Look at this one.
Yeah. We're not seeing it, Krugs.
Oh, wait a second. Oh, my bad.
Yeah. I
thought
didn't
you
want
were
to
seeing
rush
that.
it, but I'm like, yeah, it ain't there.
No. I stupidly didn't share the screen.
Okay.
You can't. It's amazing. It's amazing what you can't do if you can't hear it. All right, here we go. All the people who are talking this year about, Brock's mid, Brock's backslid, Brock's this and that. Has he, or has the talent around him backslid? He's got 13 games with a 120 passer rating or more in his first 3 NFL seasons. It's the most of any quarterback in the NFL. He's already won a conference championship and gone to the Super Bowl. He played well in the Super Bowl, even in a loss. Now he's operating on an offensive line that just gave up 19 pressures to the Rams. The weapons that he had last year, Ayuk, Debo, and CMC accounted for 40 touchdowns. This year, Ayuk, Debo, and CMC have accounted for 2.
Wow.
Isn't really more than anything what we're talking about with the Brock Purdy backslide this year? I mean, that's glaring. I mean, that is really glaring. That last year that his top trio went for 40 touchdowns, and this year that same trio got 2 touchdowns. John Lynch actually quoted that. He quoted me on that on one of his answers on KMBR on Friday. So John's seeing these videos that Kev is putting together. But I mean, that's dramatic. That is absolutely dramatic.
Oh, it's been awful. I mean, no Ayuk this year, obviously. And what about Debo? Is he do you even see Debo in a Niner uniform next year?
It's a complicated issue, because if you're just going on his play, you'd say, no, he backslid and he's not the same player and he's going downhill. But he's also, if you cut him, the way they structured the deal, there's not a lot of benefit to cutting him as opposed to having him on the roster. And he's one of Shanahan's favorite players. And Ayuk is probably going to miss a good chunk of the year. Do they want to go forward next year with no Debo and no Ayuk? And maybe they do. I think I don't think they're going to cut him. Okay. I think there's a chance they trade him. But even so, you'd have to find somebody. And Baltimore wanted him last year. I don't know if anybody wants him this year. He's very unique, but he's also, probably cooked as far as a player goes. I would say this. I don't know if you watched Notre Dame last night. Did you watch any Notre Dame, Indiana?
Yeah.
This is the video I did earlier in the week that Kev put together on what quarterback I want in the Niner quarterback room next year. And one of them is this Notre Dame kid. Listen to this, and then we'll comment. If it was me, my first choice, I'd bring Brock back. I would have Tanner Mordecai in that room. And then I want one veteran, but a better veteran than Josh Dobbs, and a better veteran than Brandon Allen, but cheap. And then I want a rookie. The 3 guys I have my eye on in this draft are, Riley Leonard, Notre Dame, Haynes King, Georgia Tech, Tyler Van Dyke, who started at Miami, now is at Wisconsin. Those guys are all going to be day 3 quarterbacks, and I'd be interested in all 3. We'll see. That would be my ideal quarterback room. if it was me, so that's who I was going with. I like Riley Leonard from Notre Dame, and he doesn't have another guy. He's kind of like Brock. He's fast. He doesn't have a huge arm. He's a bigger guy though. He's like 6'4", 220, but he's fast and he's a good runner. But he doesn't have a huge arm. He doesn't have he's not like a Mahomes arm. He doesn't have one of these epic shotgun arms. So we'll see. But that's what I would do I would say goodbye. I would keep Purdy, and then I would fill in with some rookies behind him. And see if I could, the same way you found Brock, maybe you could find a day 3 quarterback. They're hard to find, but maybe you could find one that was decent. And if you did, you could then flip that player for somebody else, or go with that player and flip Brock for assets. But to me, that's the approach. I'm not going, this Kirk Cousins, no. Aaron Rodgers, no. Do not get off of Brock Purdy for these old has-been guys.
Right. I'm with you, man. 100%. 100%. And I liked the kid last night, too. A lot of poise. Notre Dame quarterback Leonard. He played with a lot of poise, man.
He did. And he's as you said, he plays with a lot of poise. He's very, very mobile. He's a good prospect. I don't know if he's a starter. But Kyle Shanahan was asked if he needs to reinvent himself. This is kind of an interesting little soundbite as well. Let's hear from Kyle on this one before we get out of here. Okay. This is kind of interesting. Kyle talking yesterday in a poorly lit room about does he need to reinvent himself as a head coach and as a play caller offensively. Here it is.
You're on the radio. You probably don't listen to sports talk radio. But a popular talking point is that you need to reinvent yourself. Your offense is all over the league and everyone's caught up to it. And, now you need to evolve or whatever. I assume some of that already happens every year. I mean, do you agree with part of that? Or is that just, as a coach, you're always doing that?
It's a 30-second question.
Try to do every single week. That's what you try to always do. But you don't. It's kind of like the other question when talking about schemes. You don't just say, hey, today I'm going to try to run the wishbone off and stuff. It's what are the players that you have? What do you believe in? And what gives those guys the best chance to succeed? For a little bit here, we, almost went with the running quarterback, possibly with Trey. You saw a different offense when he got out there. You see different things. You got to adjust your players. I know what I want to do. I think we got the players here to do that stuff. But reinventing yourself, as you ask, that's I did that having a mustache this offseason for a little bit. That's how I would look at that. And I'm totally joking, but it's when it comes to footballs, that's why I think coaches get a little too much credit too, when a really good scheme is putting the players that you have in the best chance they have to max out and do their best. And that's what we're going to always try to do. And the scheme will change with that.
What do you think, Paulie? Does Kyle need to kind of reinvent himself going forward? Or is that kind of just the kinds of things that get thrown out in the losing season?
No, I think there's some validity to that. And we kind of hit on this earlier in the show today when we talked about like coaches having to adapt to the changes in the league. And yeah, I think Shanahan should reinvent himself to a degree, and I'm sure that he will. I mean, that could be anything from some new wrinkles in, like you said, on 4th down situations. Maybe he goes for it more next year, but that's just the nature of the NFL. We all know it's a copycat league, and has the NFL defense caught up with the Kyle Shanahan offense? Maybe to a degree. For example, like I don't think anybody's surprised anymore when Deebo Samuel gets an end around or he takes a handoff. Like teams know that's coming now. So that element of surprise has kind of gone up in smoke. And yeah, I think that is part of the job description in the NFL for a head coach. You have to adapt with the times. You have to reinvent yourself. And I think most coaches do it in one way or another. And I think the ones that do it effectively are the ones that win, and the ones that have long careers. Like you mentioned Andy Reid before. And by the way, Larry, I agree with you. I think Shanahan will get his day in the sun. And the Andy Reid comparison is a great one because he toiled in Philly for all those years. He took a lot of heat, and look at him now. He's like the poster boy for, a great coach in the NFL. Everybody loves this guy. He's on every TV commercial you can imagine. And Shanahan will have his day. But yeah, they do have to adapt. They do have to reinvent themselves. I think that, the good ones are going to do that, and you'll see it.
One of my favorite guys to talk to every week is Chris Forster, the Niner O-line coach, and he had a doozy this week. I was asking him about Campbell, kind of indirectly about Campbell, because Chris is probably the most honest guy there is in the building, right? So if you want a true good answer, you got to go ask somebody who's honest. So I asked him, has he ever had a guy quit on him before?
Wow.
He gave a pretty good answer. Listen to this one.
You seem very calm with us, but all football coaches have a temper. Have you ever asked a guy to go into a game and he said no? And how would you respond to that if it happened to you?
Yeah, I've never had a guy not go in the game. I've had to take guys out of game and hold guys out of games more. I've never had that happen. So I don't know how I'd respond. I get fired up. I like to get after guys, and I tell them it's like there's this book called The Body Keeps Count or something like that, and that when your brain remembers traumatic events. And so if I correct you, like, hey, next time, make sure you get your head outside, that's not very traumatic. But if I go off, hey, get your freaking head outside, we gotta get going, let's go. Then Mark, I say, oh, I'm gonna make sure you remember to get my head outside. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I try to boom, take it from 0 to 100, say, snap them back into it, and just hope they get it done. If a guy didn't want to go in the game, I'd be like, okay, fine, just take it in. I mean, that's what it is. I think he doesn't want to play, get him out of there, get him gone, and it is what it is. It's it's a difficult situation. Never heard of it before, but it happens, and I think it's been handled properly. I wouldn't know what I would do. I wouldn't snap on the guy probably.
You get him out of here, you get him gone. I love that one too. Yeah, if a guy doesn't want to play, you get him out of here and you get him gone.
I like that. Yeah.
It's good stuff from Forster, but he's like, hey, next time, get your head across. Get your head across. Get your head across. Good offensive line yelling. All right, let's hit a couple supers and we'll bolt for the door. Bacon and eggs, breakfast, croissants. Says Larry, were you disappointed in how Indiana played last night? No, I had Notre Dame. I bet Notre Dame. I love Notre Dame. It was Notre Dame -7. I had that written down for like 10 days. I'm like, I'm taking Notre Dame. Why? Because South Bend, Indiana is a tough place to play. Oh, and man. Indiana's had a nice year, but they're not on Notre Dame's level. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman is a very good young head coach.
He is.
Notre Dame's special teams coach is this guy, Marty Biaggi. Their special teams are the best special teams I've seen in years. NFL, college, high school. I've never seen special teams quite as good as Notre Dame's special teams are this year. They make impact plays on special teams every single game. So I knew they would win on special teams. I love this kid, Riley Leonard. He's got moxie for days. He doesn't take a lot of shots down the field. He doesn't turn it over. He can run. They score touchdowns on the goal line. That kid, Julian Love, the running back, is a star. Their D-line's really good. The secondary is amazing. They've got a corner that I want the Niners to grab named Jordan Clark, who's probably going to be a 4th-round corner, but he played well last night. So, yeah, Notre Dame's big time. Notre Dame's going to give Georgia all they want. I don't know if they can beat Georgia. Georgia's enormously talented with tons of guys going to play in the NFL. But Notre Dame is not going down without a huge fight in these playoffs. They look great.
They do.
By the way, today we get Penn State, SMU. We get all kinds of college ball today.
Yeah.
Today's a great day for college ball, pro ball. What's your plan for the day? In fact, we should tell people. People were asking me earlier today, hey, what are you wagering on today? I took Penn State and over SMU on the teaser. It's Penn State. The line's big. It was like Penn State by 10 or something like that. I took them on the teaser. So I've got Penn State with a small margin over SMU. They're up 21-0. Why do I like the home teams so much? Because they're not neutral site games. Almost all of college football's postseason, we're used to watching great teams play each other at this time of the year, but they're always playing in a neutral site. Well, guess what? Neutral site is advantage nobody. Home field is a major advantage in college football. So Penn State being in Happy Valley, I like Penn State. Now, if that game were in Dallas, maybe I'd like SMU, but I like Penn State in Happy Valley. I like Texas in Austin against Clemson today. I don't love the spread in that game because it's 13.5, but I like Texas to win the game. I'll definitely think the Ohio State Buckeyes are beating Tennessee. Buckeyes are at home in the shoe. It's Buckeyes by 7. So my wagers today, I took Penn State and the Buckeyes on the teaser. So I've got small margins to win in that. And then I went NFL. I went money line parlay today. I went Chiefs and Ravens. I went with the home teams. Chiefs are up, by the way, 7-3 on the Texans. 3 minutes left in the first quarter. Steelers and Ravens play at 1:30 in Baltimore. Ravens are a touchdown favorite. Steelers play the Ravens and Lamar Jackson really, really tough. But the Ravens are really good at home. And I just think the Steelers are not, Paulie, if there's one team in the NFL that his record is just total garbage on the good side, it's the Steelers. They're not a 10-4 football team.
I guess not, man. I guess not. I took them last week, and I learned that lesson the hard way because I expected more. But you're right. I don't think that record reflects who the Steelers really are. When they have a 3rd and short and they have to move the chains, even with Najee Harris, they weren't able to do that. And, credit to the Raven defense. They got a great D down there. But I'm with you. Yeah, I was disappointed. The Steelers are not what their record says they are. Unfortunately, no.
They just, they don't have a dynamic runner. Najee's a great guy, but he's not a dynamic runner. And Russ is good, but not great. Pickens is hurt. TJ Watt's hurt. They're not quite the same. Paulie, two last thoughts before we get out of here. One on the Warriors, one on the Giants. Give me your quick thought. Golden State, and then we'll hit some of these supers before we bail.
Okay.
Golden State started off 12-3. And they have fallen apart since that point. What's going on there? And they just traded for Schroeder.
Yeah.
Do you want to see them move Kuminga? Do you want to see them keep Kuminga? What's your vibe on? There's all kinds of talk that the Warriors could be going after Zion Williamson, Jimmy Butler, Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram. Nicholas Vucevic. There's all kinds. Supposedly the Warriors are aggressive in their pursuit of a big man, talking about maybe Vucevic, Valanciunas. But it sounds like they want to try to make some trades. They're willing to trade Pods. They're willing to trade maybe Kuminga. What do you think?
Well, first of all, that loss in Memphis, losing by 50 plus, it was just an embarrassment. There's no other way. There's no getting around that. It was a horrible looking game. I agree with you. I like the Schroeder move. I think he'll do good things for the Warriors, but to expect him to kind of come in on day one and save the team was a little crazy. But, again, getting blown out like that, they were in a hole instantly in that game in the first quarter, and it just got more and more out of hand as the game unfolded. You mentioned a couple of guys I really do like. Like, I'm a big Jimmy Butler fan. I love his style. I love the way he plays. He's like a perfect player for that Pat Riley system down there in Miami. But I don't know if Jimmy Butler would fit in. I just don't know if it's a good fit in Golden State, even though I'm a fan of the guy. The Zion thing is very interesting. It's getting to the point where they might have to roll the dice and take a chance on a guy like that. And if that means giving up Kuminga at this point, I think I'm okay with that because you're right. Starting this year 12-3 was it's kind of like the Pittsburgh Steelers we just talked about. That 12-3 record didn't really reflect who they are because their schedule was pretty easy at the beginning of the year. Now that it's gotten tougher, you're kind of seeing what they have, and it's just simply not enough. They can't compete right now. So, yeah.
Go young, though. Don't go. I don't want to see LeBron. I don't want to see Jimmy Butler. Go young. No. Go get a young player. So even Zion, who's beat up physically, I'd much rather take Zion than go get Jimmy Butler. I know people are like so wed to this. Get Steph a ring. Steph looks bad. Steph looks old. Does Steph look like a guy who's going to win another ring? He doesn't look like a guy who's going to win another ring. This is a marathon. They're literally like in the opening miles of a marathon, and this guy's struggling bad. And you think he's going to be he's going to be winning this marathon at the end? Come on, that's just that. I'm optimistic, but let's not get high on our own supply here. Let's, what are we talking about? Steph Curry and Draymond Green, who both look ancient, are somehow going to, in this NBA with all these other teams, are going to lead the Warriors with all these role players to a title. they're going to have to. If I'm Mike Dunleavy, I'm willing to make almost any move that's out there. I don't want to move Steph. I don't want to move. I probably don't want to move Draymond. Let's just say, and nobody wants Draymond. But I'm just saying, I'd probably keep those guys. But other than that, I'm open-minded, man. I'm open-minded. Kuminga, I would rather keep Kuminga, but guess what? Tell me what you're offering. Let's talk about it. I'd rather keep Pods, but you know what? The guy can't shoot threes, and he can't finish inside, so he can't be on the floor at the end of games. So it's like, if you have a guy that can't be on the floor at the end of the game, then what value does he really have? Right. I think Podziemski's the most overrated player I've seen. I mean, he can't make an outside shot, and he can't finish inside. So that means what is he doing on the floor at the end of games? He can rebound and like cycle it around. I mean, that's about it.
Yeah. So. Well, I mean, I thought last year Podziemski really gave the team a spark on a lot of nights, but this year, dude, he can't hit the side of the barn shooting the rock. I mean, his shooting has been horrendous. And you just said something, dude, that's driven me crazy this year about the Warriors, which is Steve Kerr. And I love Steve Kerr, but he's got Podziemski out there with the game on the line way too often, because when he gets the ball in his hands in a clutch situation, he's bricking shots. So I'm with you, Larry. I think they're at the point where they look around the league. There's teams are just pulling away from them, and they've got to shake this thing up. And I'm with you. I like Kuminga too. If there's a way to keep him, great. But if they got to move Kuminga to bring in a game-changing talent like a Zion, I would take a chance on that right now. I really would, because this recipe is not going to work.
I agree. All right, and let's hit the couple last ones here. Bacon and egg breakfast croissant. Larry, were you disappointed in how Indiana played last night? No, I was thrilled because I had Notre Dame. NorCal Refrigeration and HVAC says Paulie Mack and the Mackeys on the YouTube channel. Could you imagine the Murph and Mackeys on your guys' award ceremony on YouTube? It would be better on YouTube. Dixie Normus 209. Nice handle. Can you recall a more disappointing season? I mean, 82 was very disappointing because the Niners won it all in 81, and there was like all kinds of rumors of drug use and cocaine use and this and that. So 82 was very disappointing. 83 was very disappointing because they got hosed at RFK against the Skins, and that was thievery. That was absolute thievery. So those 2 years stand out. 87 stands out. They went 14-2, and they got beat by Jerry Burns and Wade Wilson. Remember, it was like, remember that Wade Wilson for Tommy Kramer. Yeah, beat the Niners, and Joe and Reggie Rutland, I think, had a big interception of Joe, went down the sidelines at the end. Yeah, and they yanked Joe. Didn't they yank Joe out of that game?
They did. Yeah.
So that 87 was a bummer. I mean, obviously 85 was a bummer. They lost to the Giants. 86 was a bummer. They got destroyed by the Giants. Yeah. 87, I mean, was, as I just said, they were great, and they lost to Minnesota, and then Washington won it all. So those are the ones that stand out. To me, if you said the most disappointing Niner moment, I would say it was the 1992 NFC Championship game lost to the Cowboys, because the Niners were epic that year, and that was Steve Young's MVP year. He was great. He was amazing. Yeah. And they still lost that game. So that was it wasn't a disappointing season, but it was a disappointing. I would say this year had the most similar to the final year of Harbaugh, where it's just like they weren't winning, and you're sitting there going, "What's going on? What's happening here?" Yeah, and that I don't know how you felt about that final year of Harbaugh, but that was just so perplexing. And this year, I would say, and we haven't talked about it. I don't want to get into it again because it's loser talk. But the rest disadvantage was a major factor this year for the Niners. I mean, they had the longest off season, they had the shortest off season. Then they wound up with the biggest rest differential disadvantage, and they played 6 teams off a bye or a mini bye, and it was just all too much to overcome. Too much to overcome. And then the backsliding of CMC, Ayuk, and Debo. And I think that, to me, that's the part, that factor is the factor that makes me most nervous going forward, is that it's not that the Niners went from 40 touchdowns with that trio to 2. It's that next year, what can you really expect to get? touchdown wise. If I said to you, how many touchdowns in 2025 for the trio of Debo, CMC, and Ayuk, knowing that Ayuk may not play a good portion of the year, CMC's got chronic, tendonitis in both Achilles, and Debo looks done. If you said to me how many touchdowns are those guys going to score next year, I bet you it's a whole lot closer to 2 than it is to 40.
Yeah,
say that right now.
I mean, the combined with the three of them, considering everything you said, and also mix in this year with the disappointing season that it's been. You're right; they played more football than other teams. They've had little rest, and they've also had this injury plague has been haunting them all year long. I mean, it's their best players, whether it was Ayuk or Trent Williams or Hufanga or Bosa or Christian McCaffrey. I mean, these are Pro Bowl guys we're talking about, and all of them have been hurt this year. So that's definitely part of the story of this year, part of the tapestry. But ultimately, yeah, man, it's not a historically disappointing season, like you said, because I agree. I think 83 was rough. 87 was a killer. I thought 90, when they were on their way to three-peat and Roger Craig fumbled in the NFC Championship, that was a heartbreaker. But what a great year they had. They were 14-2 that year. I don't think this is historically disappointing, but it is disappointing, and you got to factor in everything we just mentioned. So, it's going to be interesting, man. So, because if they do lose in Miami, I think against Detroit, Shanahan's going to start to rest guys. But we'll see what plays out in Miami before we go down that road.
The one thing I would love to see, and before we get out of the season, I'd like to see Tanner Mordecai get a start.
Okay.
Why? Because he played 4 years in college. He's got probably the best arm. I mean, I'm at every practice, right? This guy's got the best arm between Dobbs, Brandon Allen, Purdy, and Mordecai. Mordecai has the best arm. He's got the best zip on the ball. He also runs 4.45 in the 40. So you're talking about a quarterback who's got a pretty good arm and 4.4 speed. I got to see this guy. You got to give me one game of Tanner Mordecai. You got to let me see this guy one time, because I'm absolutely convinced that he's going to play. He's going to play well, and people are going to be like, Jesus, what the hell? Why are we not playing Tanner Mordecai? He's not a nobody. He's a somebody. I'm telling you, he's not a nothing. I mean, I tried to say that to people about Brock Purdy a couple years ago. I'm like, hey, look, because I told Bonte and Shasky on the 95.7 The Game morning show, that summer, Brock's rookie year. I'm like, well, you also have Brock Purdy, and Brock Purdy really looks good out here. They're like, oh, come on, like Brock Purdy. I mean, and I'm like, dude, Brock Purdy's real.
Yeah.
And they scoffed, man. And Bonte especially. And I've Bonte and I are friends, and me and him have talked about it since. But I'm like, dude, I threw at Brock Purdy, dude, and you guys were scoffing.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, there's no question we were. But this guy, Mordecai, has got foot speed and arm strength. I want to see it. I think he's better than Brandon Allen. I think he's better than Josh Dobbs. I would go forward next year with Brock as my one, Mordecai as my backup, and go into the draft. See if you can find a rookie or two that you really like. So anyway, that's going to do it for us. We're going to watch some football the rest of the day. Paulie and I have got some Christmas shopping to do. We're an hour and 30 minutes in. We never like to go more than 90 minutes. So that's going to do it. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krueger Show. Thanks to Mancini's for being the sponsor of this live stream. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Thanks to all of you guys as well in the chat. Happy holidays, Paulie.
Yes.
We normally go on Wednesday, and Wednesday is Christmas. So we won't be doing next Wednesday, but we'll pick it up in the following Wednesday. And happy holidays to you and your wife and your boys and your family. And man, it's been an absolute pleasure to reconnect with you on YouTube, and we're big fans of you and your efforts going forward. We're going to be there helping you promote it, driving people to it, and helping you grow that channel. So have a great holiday, dude. Love you, brother. Have a fantastic Christmas and New Year's with your family. We wish you nothing but success in 2025. And that's going to do it for all of us. Paulie, we'll give you the final word.
Well, I want to say thank you, Larry, for everything you've done. You've opened a lot of doors for me this year. I love hanging out with you on the Krug Show. And again, yeah, Merry Christmas to you, your entire family. Larry's got a great family over there. And everybody over here in the comments in the chat room, you guys, thank you for tuning in. Thanks for supporting Krug. Hopefully you'll come check my show out in January. But until then, everybody, just go enjoy the holidays. Enjoy your football today. And cheers. Be safe out there, everybody.
For Paulie, I'm Larry. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly